Hello and welcome. You're watching BIZWORLD Weekly, a show where we bring you the top stories of the week from across the world. Let's start with the market check. Indian equity indices ended flat on a volatile session on September 5. At close, Sensex was down 0.01% at 80,710.76 points and Nifty was up 0.03% at 24,741 points. On sectoral front, realty, FMCG, IT indices were down 1% each, while auto index was up 1.3% and media and metals was up 0.5% each. M&M, Eicher Motors, Maruti Suzuki, Dr. Reddy's Labs and Power Grid were among the top gainers, while top losers were ITC, TCS, Cipla and HCL Tech. BSE mid-cap and small-cap indices were also trading flat. Indian rupee ended 11 paise lower at 88.26 per dollar on September 5. US President Donald Trump has yet again doubled down on sanctions on India. He hinted a phase 2 and phase 3 of what he called sanctions on India, highlighting his past warning that New Delhi got big problems if it did not stop buying Russian oil. He claimed that imposing additional 25% tariffs on India cost Russia billions of dollars. Now, we don't know what billions of dollars Russia is being hit with as Trump unleashes extra tariffs for India, because Russia is now offering even more discounts to New Delhi and India is taking them. After a brief pause, India is now taking advantage of growing price gap between Russian and Middle Eastern oil. China has stepped up in to snap up surplus too, increasing orders of Russian Urals crude for October by 10x from September levels as per a report. India's Russian oil intake has only increased though, now comprising 37% of all its crude imports, up from just 1% 4 years ago. So instead of punishing India, Trump's tariffs have made sanctioned Russian crude even more cheaper, now trading at up to $7 per barrel. So Indian refiners are getting a discount of up to $3 to $4 off Brent compared to just $1 in July, and US is selling at $3 premium, giving Indian refiners more reasons to return back to Russia. As per reports, traders expect 10 to 20% rise in Indian purchases of Russian oil this month. If that happens, India's daily intake could hit 1.8 million barrels, a volume nearly double what it used to import in early 2023. So, well, it looks like Russia is adapting and New Delhi is resisting. Meanwhile, analysts say that this aggressive buying has held global oil prices from soaring. Citi says that if India had stopped buying Russian oil, prices would have gone up by $100 per barrel. And India is doing nothing illegal as it is buying oil at price capped by the West. Now talking about the tariffs hurting India. Yes, they are, but India has taken this as an opportunity. GST reforms have come in. More than 400 goods have now gotten cheaper for the consumers, boosting the domestic demand, so we don't have to rely much on the exports. Second is building more relations, trade relations with other countries. Recently, Piyush Goyal, the Commerce Minister of India, said that India is in talks with 50 countries for trade and shifting the exports out of US. Prime Minister Modi too on X said about his conversation with Europe and other nations on trade. Modi also visited China and Japan last week to boost ties. This is a long-term strategy to diversify exports and keep the domestic demand at record highs. Meanwhile, India is still in talks with US for a trade deal, and economists across US have only echoed the same thing. Trump's tariffs on India don't make any sense. Edward Prince, an adjunct professor at New York University, says that India holds a deciding vote in shaping the 21st century and warned that Trump's tariff policies are jeopardizing Washington's most important partnership. He said that US needs to remove the 50% tariff on India and get it down to something more reasonable, and he suggests 0% and an apology. This is what an expert from US sitting in US says by himself. So for Trump, we suggest that you look into yours and your allies' own trade before attacking India, because EU is the largest buyer of natural gas from Russia. However, Trump only has warned EU to stop buying Russian oil. But what actually is fueling Russia's coffers is revenue from natural gas. What do you think about this? Let us know in the comments. This week, China held its World War II parade. It was a rare sight, or a power show, whatever you can call it. Xi Jinping, Putin, and Kim Jong-un all at one stage. Donald Trump even accused them of conspiring against America. Well, FOMO makes you do all sorts of things, and especially if you are obsessed with yourself. Good for Trump. Thanks to Hot Mic, private conversation between the three leaders was leaked. Now, you may be wondering what were they talking about? Trade, US, or enemy nations? But strangely, they spoke about living longer. Just before the parade began, Putin's translator was heard saying, "Biotechnology is continuously developing. Human organs can be continuously transplanted. The longer you live, the younger you become, and even achieve immortality." Xi Jinping then added his own thought on this. Some predict that in this century, humans might live to 150 years old. He was heard saying this. A striking conversation for two world leaders, and one that instantly made headlines. Well, it's not surprising coming from them. They both want to live longer because that comes with more power. In fact, this is nothing. These leaders take extreme measures to safeguard their health details getting out. And a proof of that too was showcased during Kim Jong-un's visit in China. Here's the report.
This week, China hosted a military parade to celebrate victory against Japan in World War II. What stole the headline was meeting of three leaders, Xi, Putin, and Kim Jong-un. While it was unusual to see the three leaders together already, a more unusual scene grabbed eyeballs. A new video has emerged. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's aides sprang into action after his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Beijing, meticulously cleaning every item Kim came into contact with. The staff didn't just wipe his seat. They polished the backrest, cleaned the chair's arms, scrubbed the nearby table, and even whisked away his drinking glass, all sparking fresh questions about leadership security. Why such intense precautions? Some observers believe Kim's team aimed to remove every trace of his DNA, possibly a safeguard against Russia's powerful security agencies, or perhaps due to China's renowned surveillance capabilities. This level of protection isn't new. In 2023, Kim's staff disinfected his chair after a Russian summit, and he reportedly travels with a private toilet to prevent leaks of health-related information. For leaders like Kim, staying vigilant about even microscopic details has become a hallmark of diplomatic protocol. Interestingly, Kim Jong-un isn't alone in this DNA paranoia. Russian President Vladimir Putin is said to take similar measures, with his security detail collecting bodily waste during foreign trips since 2017, a routine designed to foil foreign intelligence efforts to analyze his health. During Putin's meeting with Donald Trump in Alaska, Russian agents reportedly carried Putin's waste back to Moscow in special suitcases, a startling example of modern espionage protection.
A few months ago, US President Donald Trump called India a dead economy. In Q2 of 2025, Indian economy grew 7.8% in GDP and US grew 3.3%. Looks like the dead economy can run faster than the best. Now, recent warnings from leading financial organizations signal that trouble may be brewing for the American economy. Investment bank UBS has raised concerns, pinning the chance of US recession as high as 93% based on a close analysis of critical economic indicators like consumer spending, personal income, industrial output, and job growth. Now, these numbers have been stagnating since February, suggesting an environment that's weak, if not fully collapsing. According to UBS, there are three pivotal warning signs. First, short-term borrowing costs have overtaken long-term rates, a classic sign of distress in the financial system. Second, credit availability is shrinking while the risk of loan defaults is rising. And third, overall economic data continues to hover in fragile and uncertain state. UBS recession models offer varied perspectives. One estimates a roughly 93% likelihood of a downturn, while another suggests that the odds are closer to 52%. While these projections differ, both point to a significant possibility of a recession emerging in the near term. Adding to the anxiety, there is rising concern over stagflation. This is a difficult scenario where growth slows down but prices continue to climb, squeezing consumers and businesses alike. Moody's chief economist Mark Zandi echoes these concerns, saying that the nation may not officially be in a recession yet, but is dangerously close to tripping over the edge. Job creation has been weak, he says, and nearly 2/3 of US states are either stagnating or already experiencing recession-like conditions. Bank of America, meanwhile, warns that new tariffs and stricter immigration policies, Trump's two main policies, could further fuel stagflation pressures. JP Morgan also raised alarms, saying that the sharp drop in labor demand is usually a recession warning signal. As such, downshifts in job growth often lead to retrenchment. Overall, UBS and other economists say that US economy is weaker than a soft landing, but not fully collapsing yet, and leaving 2025 on a knife's edge. Given that the United States is the world's largest economy, any downturn is likely to send ripple effects across the global markets. Meanwhile, India's growth forecast is stable. It is expected to grow by 6.5% in FY26 as per Niti Aayog. So looks like Trump's policies are making every other country but America great again. US President Donald Trump organized a tech dinner at the White House. He invited big tech CEOs from all across America for the evening. Many showed up, but once Trump's bestie, Elon Musk, was absent. Now, reports say that he was not on the guest list, but Musk said that he was invited but could not make it, so someone from his team would attend the dinner. But what did this dinner look like? It was a mix of policy talks, jokes, and candid hot mic moments. Well, just like Trump's other cabinet meetings, big tech CEOs now have decided to use the classic Trump playbook. They were all praises about Trump. Google CEO Sundar Pichai thanked him and said that he was relieved as the antitrust case was over, which sought to break up Google Chrome browser. Now, the ruling sparked a surge in Alphabet's market value, which crossed $2.5 trillion this week. For Pichai, this was a chance to reset ties with the administration, which had accused Google of bias earlier. Bill Gates openly praised Trump's COVID-19 vaccine initiative, calling it a model for rapid medical innovation. Sam Altman described Trump as pro-business, pro-innovation president. Cook highlighted Apple's $600 billion investment in America, crediting Trump's tone and leadership for enabling it. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg drew laughs when caught on a hot mic. He apologized and said that he was not ready for being pressed on free speech in Britain. Trump teased him, saying that this is the beginning of your political career, and Zuckerberg said, "No, it is not." Well, looks like they all have learned from Elon Musk's political tenure. Now, serious conversations like job reports were also talked about. Trump was asked whether he would trust the BLS data on jobs coming out on September 5, but he said, "I don't know," and accused past BLS leadership of political manipulation. He said that the real numbers will come as tech companies invest in building infrastructure in America. And so the obvious question Trump asked them was how much will they invest in America? Tim Cook said $600 billion. Even Meta's CEO Zuckerberg said the same. Google said $250 billion in the next 2 years. Microsoft said that this year investment in US is close to around $75 to $80 billion. The dinner was then followed by AI-focused event hosted by the First Lady. Trump remarked this meeting saying that it would take US to a whole new level, and what it looked like was more a Trump praising event as big tech CEOs lined up to remain on good side of the president. This week, Trump administration witnessed two legal setbacks. First, Trump's decision to freeze $2.2 billion in grants for Harvard University that was ruled unlawful by a federal court judge. Second, his tariffs were legally challenged and the courts had ruled that the tariffs were illegal. The tariffs that he has been imposing on his allies, they are illegal is what the court said. So he has now taken the case ahead to the Supreme Court. Here's what he said.
A major twist in the global trade landscape. Donald Trump's signature tariffs have been announced illegal by U.S. appeals courts, sparking a high-stakes Supreme Court showdown. The court found that Trump overstepped presidential powers under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, declaring these sweeping levies, especially those on imports from the EU, Japan, and other nations, a congressional prerogative, not an executive privilege. Trump has now petitioned the Supreme Court to reverse the lower court's ruling, arguing that the president must retain broad tariff powers for effective diplomacy and national security. Trump warned and said, "If we do not win this case, our country is going to endure tremendous suffering." He stressed that the tariffs had strengthened America's position and generated leverage in trade talks. The economic implications are huge. If the Supreme Court finds the tariffs illegal, Trump says the U.S. could be forced to unwind major trade deals with Europe, Japan, and South Korea, potentially losing billions negotiated under the threat of tariffs. And what happens to the billions already collected? Legal experts say importers may demand refunds, leading to uncertainty around government revenues and throwing supply chains into chaos. For now, tariffs remain in effect until at least October 14th as the Supreme Court review proceeds. If Trump loses, expect massive ripples, potential refunds, renegotiated deals, and a full-scale policy rethink. This is being watched closely by business and world leaders, with many warning that such an outcome could also drive up inflation and destabilize markets.
Let's move our focus on to Pakistan. Well, at least somewhere it should be the point of focus. This week, China hosted two major events, the SEO Summit and the military parade. At the SEO Summit, Modi, Xi and Putin met and sent a bold message to the West. But there was another country at the summit that stole the show, at least on social media. It was Pakistan. Pakistan and embarrassment go hand in hand because they never learn from their mistakes. This was a high-profile bilateral meeting of Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif, and Russian President Vladimir Putin. He was going to put on his earphones, Shehbaz Sharif, and that's where he shook. He didn't know what to do and he struggled. Putin could not stop himself from demonstrating to how to put an earphone on for the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Have a look. Well, if you might say that this clip is old, trust me, it's new, because in 2022, a similar clip went viral. It was from a summit in Uzbekistan 3 years ago, and the same person sitting in front of Sharif, it was Putin, and the visuals were also same. So, well, as I said, they never learn from their mistakes. This was one incident. Another incident that went viral. Well, you see Prime Minister Modi was the highlight of this summit because he stepped in China after 7 long years, and Russia, India and China meet was the highlight of this entire summit. But Shehbaz Sharif wanted to be seen too. So after the family photo, Sharif was seen sprinting to grab attention at the Russian president and Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, and the video made rounds on social media too. There was another video where Sharif was completely ignored by Prime Minister Modi and Russian president as they walked hand in hand past him. And what did he do? Well, he kept staring just like a jealous 10-year-old. So Shehbaz Sharif had an embarrassing week abroad, but in Pakistan too, the scenes were not that great. Pakistan is suffering with massive floods, one of the worst in the country's history. Nearly 2.5 million people have been affected, over 800 people have been killed. So what is the government doing? Well, ideally, relief measures are taken, which were taken. Strategies are set to how to deal with these repercussions of the flood later after the floods are gone, and the government ensures that people are safe and secure. But it's Pakistan after all. Its Defense Minister Khwaja Asif came out with a life-changing plan. He urged people of Pakistan to view these floods as a blessing and store water in containers at their homes. Imagine your home is being swept away by floods, and this is what your Defense Minister tells you. Well, it's not funny anymore because people pay the price, not the leaders.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.